off and I'll go through the bespoke Mayflower package, and Rosalind will do the same for Mount Wise. So these are the 10 essential characteristics of a 21st century educator by Kuros. And this is exactly what we want everybody that works at Mayflower or Mount Wise to be when they're a teacher. So obviously we want them to be building good relationships, so your 4 C's. Learner, we want you to be interested in the research and to keep current. Inclusive, so we're looking at all the children. Everything we do, we're always thinking about how this positively impacts all children. Reflective about ourselves as practitioners and about ourselves personally and how that brings the impact into the classroom. We want everybody to be networked, because it's amazing how much you learn from others when you widen your scope and you look out there and you see what's working and not working at other schools and the other research, and then bring it back. It's so important. To innovate, as Dave said earlier, we really want to give people the opportunities to do what they feel they want to do. They want to innovate. Leaders, well, we're all leaders at Mayflower and Mount Wise. We class everybody as a leader in their own right, for whether it's a subject or phase or class leader, whatever. Storyteller, really important now that there's so much research out there at the moment that goes to tell us that when something is presented in a story format, it resonates with us and we remember it much easier. It's easier for our cognitive load. So therefore we want to become storytellers. Designer, absolutely. Let's design our curriculum, design our class plan, design how we do our daily teaching. Artist, let's bring out the creative side in us. We're not machines and we need to be creative. And when you put this all together, that's what Kuros feels that is a 21st century educator is. So I want you to bear all those 10 essential characteristics in mind. And now I want you to think about how we apply these characteristics to our real life, because it's all very well somebody sat there telling us what we should be, but how on earth are we going to put it into real life at Mayflower and Mount Wise? And so this on the right is called the Pyramid of Influence, and it was designed by Dave and Helen back in 2016, and we've adapted it last year to be more current with current research. And so you might have seen this before because it can be used for our professional development triangles too. And it's basically everything that Kuros said, but put into our version of it. So if you look at the bottom 2 layers, immersing and embedding. So think of yourself, if you were a novice, if you're new to something, then you're spending time immersing your learning. So as a teacher, think about you now on this pyramid. When something is new, for example, this afternoon at Mayflower, we're going to be doing some new PE. So unless you're the PE lead, PE expert, it's very much everybody, we're immersing ourselves in new learning. And therefore, we are dependent. So we're dependent on our teams. We need, just like we would with the children, we need to, not physically, but metaphorically, take them by the hand, and we need to guide each other and work together, which is where very much the Mayflower Together We Can, Believe You Can, all comes together. And so we're immersing. And then once we've started to immerse, we're becoming a little bit more confident in our teaching, we're becoming to embed. So for example, if you're an NQT or this year an ECT, then you're very much in the stages of immersing. You're taking everything in, all the new learning in. Think of it on the continuum of novice to expert, which is a continuum. It's not a straight line. So then we're moving up. So when we're on to like number 3 and number 4, we're becoming more independent in ourselves as leaders at school, as educators. And so we're getting the confidence behind us to be able to tweak how we want to do things in school, how we want to teach. It's all very well reading all the evidence, but sometimes we need to tweak it to fit to our classroom and our pedagogy. So that would be another number 3, where you're designing how you teach, what you teach, and you're constantly developing it. So at no point on this pyramid is anybody a true expert, know-it-all, if you know what I mean. It's we're always designing, we're always developing, you're becoming more independent in your own learning. Which then leads on to number 4, where you are quite independent now, so you're able to quality assure your work, and you're able to quality assure the work of your teams. So for example, if somebody brought in something new for reading, I could work with them and quality assure what they were doing and make any tweaks, and we would obviously do our praise and our enhancements, respond, measure and share, and we would use that to quality assure as a team. It's the next step in our leadership journey, in our way of being a full 21st century educator. And scale, that means moving from working just within your classroom to working within your school, to then working across the school, to then really scaling it up. So as we often say, to move beyond your postcode, to get it out there, put Plymouth on the map and to get out there, which then leads on to the last stage of what Covey says, which is interdependence. So interdependence means you're now out there, you're influencing and you're networking, you're a real innovator, and you're starting to make changes. You're making changes to your local school, but you're also making changes regionally and nationally, perhaps internationally too. You're influencing and you're networking. You're becoming very confident in your teaching and your leading, which is where we really want everybody to be. And to be able to get up to the top of the pyramid, to the number 5, to be interdependent, then you need to look back at what Kuros says are the 4 effective characteristics and think carefully about which area you need to develop, or we need to develop as a team. So then moving on from that, this breaks this down a little bit further. So how on earth are we supposed to move up this pyramid? Well, I found this from Campbell et al., pretty recent, 2017, and she splits it into 3 main areas. So supporting and sustainability, quality content, and learning design and implementation. So if you look at quality content first, evidence informed. So everything that we do should now be evidence informed. It's not so much opinion based anymore. We're moving away from this is how we've always done it. This is what the evidence is telling us. And so we're taking that evidence and we're using it, but we're adapting it to our schools, because evidence from a school that worked perhaps in inner city London or a little village school in North Yorkshire might not be relevant to our schools. And so we're taking the evidence and we're looking how we can use it. The quality content, subject specific and pedagogical content knowledge. As Dave was saying, we need to know that you can't teach DT effectively if you don't understand the whys, the hows, the whats, the wheres of DT. So we need to make sure, and it's hard for us as primary teachers because we teach every subject, but we need to know that we have a strong subject knowledge. We need to have a focus, absolutely, everything we do on pupil outcomes. So that should be at the very forefront of our mind constantly. And how to get that? So we need to look at a balance of teacher voice and system coherence. So we need to, your opinion matters to us, which is why we do lots of polls, YAMA polls, lots of teacher voice, etc., because what you say does matter and you're very much an influence. So that would be how to get quality content in our effective professional learning. When we're designing and implementing that, we have to think carefully about how we do active and variable learning. So that's a little different at the moment with things being remote. But normally, if you have your insets and your CPD sessions, we try to make them as active and as involving as many people as we possibly can. Collaborative learning experiences, we know we work better as a team. We're not an island, we're not by ourselves. Our ethos at both schools is very much about working together. Knowledge, we need to have that knowledge. You need to be reading the research, you need to be keeping yourselves current and up to date. And job empowered learning, so why do we do what we do? What makes you tick? What gives you the drive to get up in the morning and come to work with the children and make a difference? And support and sustainability. This is the hardest part when planning effective professional learning, because we want it to be ongoing. We don't want anything to be a one-off flash in the pan. Everything that we do, we want it to be on a spiral basis. We want it to be coming back. We're overdoing things once and that's it. You now know it, you're an expert. No, nobody learns like that. We don't do that with the children. We shouldn't do that with us as adults. So it's really important that it's ongoing. The resources, we need to make sure that we give you high quality resources in advance. We're not going to give you loads of handouts on the day and then ask you what you think and break it down. That would be unfair. We wouldn't do that with the children. We would give them some pre-learning. And so we're going to do the same for us. And that's why if we use the walkthroughs, etc., it's high quality evidence-based that we're doing. As I said, nothing is opinion-based. And it's supportive and engaging leadership. So hopefully, we really hope Mount Wise and at Mayflower that our leadership teams are open and supportive, and that you know that if you have any element that you want to develop further in your professional learning, we hope that you feel that you can come to us and we can really help and see what we can do. And around this, there's just 4 quotes. I'm not going to read them to you, but they're just 4 quotes that I felt fitted that go with the experts. So we've got Covey again, Fiorella and Meyer from the Generative Learning, Scott and Cordingley et al. So as with the reading, I will send this through to you in any case so that you can see. So then now we've had all the theory behind it. So we've looked at what we need to be an effective educator, and we've looked at how that relates to our professional development pyramid. We've looked at how, when we're designing a professional development program, what we need to focus on. But now we're going to bring it really back down to our core. So how do we actually do that for our schools? And we do that with a spiral approach. So what that means is that, and this is relevant for Mayflower and Mount Wise, what that means is that, as I said, we don't touch on something once and then never come back to it. This spiral approach, we have threads that go through our whole CPD program throughout the year. So we're constantly coming back. It's not you've learned it once, you know it, now let's move on. No, that's not how things work. So it's a spiral approach. It's very important. So thinking about the spiral approach and then thinking about CPD offer for this coming year, what were the influences behind everything that we did? So how did we plan what on earth we're going to do this coming year? So very much as Dave was talking about earlier, Trivium is a major part to this, but we're not, as Dave was saying, we're not Trivium schools, but we take the research from Trivium and we use it to influence everything that we do. So everything throughout this CPD package will be based on modelling, so recall, question and exploring, and then how we declare and we share, which we started to do in this past academic year, and we kind of dipped our feet in to see a little bit about how we can declare and share. And now we know what works well, what we need to develop, and we can do the changes further. So Trivium is throughout. That's kind of like the golden thread. And Trivium, if you combine that with the project-based learning, so project-based learning is important to have in here because that is the creative side of our learning. That ties everything we do together. It makes it real and it brings us out. Remember, this is the time when you can innovate, you can design, you can be the artist. It's the creative side of that. And tying that together with Trivium is the perfect balance. So those 2 areas very much influenced our CPD package. Obviously, staff professional development requests. So I know that Rosalind has hers from Mount Wise that has affected Mount Wise's CPD package, and I sent out Yammer polls throughout our last CPD practice for Mayflower, and I've really looked at those carefully and we've studied them and we've designed the next package based as much as we can on teacher voice. National and global agendas, we always have to put those in. There's no choice really, that is a must, so we have to go with that. Evidence-informed practice, as I said earlier, everything that we do is evidence-based, and we take it and we change it to how we need to without deviating off the scheme. We need to keep fidelity to the research as much as possible. So I put the EEF because I'm sure you all know they're so current and they're really out there. They're producing the most amazing guidance documents continuously. But there's TDT, which is the Teacher Development Trust, and I keep a close eye on them. And I've noticed that over Twitter, they're becoming stronger and stronger, and they're really getting the experts in, and they're working with them to do research, and then they're presenting it and writing books and blogs, and it's just a really good one to keep an eye on. So Teacher Development Trust. And then finally, the one at the end, pupil outcomes, is obviously the most important one. It influences everything that we do. There's no point going off researching some different things if it's not relevant to our children and our community and our circumstances. So those are the influences. So just really going back to this, so what is Trivium? So when we're talking about how does Trivium affect us in our schools, down the right hand side you can see I've put the spiral to remind everybody that it's continuous. Trivium and project-based learning are the influencers, and that little yellow squiggle is a golden thread because the golden thread goes throughout the spiral, and everything we do is Trivium and project-based learning based. So what is Trivium? These are the official Trivium words by Robinson in 2013, and he talks about grammar, dialectic and rhetoric. So what we've done, we've taken that evidence and we've put a Mayflower / Mount Wise twist on it. And these are the leader models by Dave Samuels, 2016, and we now call them modelling. Sometimes we call it recall, but modelling, question and exploring, and declaring and sharing. And so that's, as teachers, that's what we expect the children to be doing as they're learning, and that's what we're going to do for our CPD. So throughout the CPD, we're going to be modelling, question and exploring, and declaring and sharing. So if you just look at these icons now, and just make a mental note of which icon goes with which word, because you'll need these later. So then we're back to that continuum. We're back to the pyramid of learning, a pyramid of influence, and we're going to break down each part of the Trivium and think about how, as pupils and us as teachers, that it fits for both. So if we look at the model and we start at the bottom of each list where it says novice / pupil. So a novice teacher or a novice pupil, somebody new to their learning, needs to spend time comparing, contrasting, attending to their learning and immersion. So if you're new to something that we're talking about in CPD, you need to really immerse yourself. You need to go out and read what we're suggesting that you read, or watch the podcast or anything like that. No, watch the videos on the video library that we've created. So that would be your immersion. And then as you're moving up, you're becoming more expert. You share the high level success stories. So you tell us what works. Think about your wider network. You define, and you're becoming more confident in your instruction. And that would be how Trivium applies to modelling for novice through to expert for pupils and for teachers. Question and exploring, same again, start at the bottom with the novice. It could be novice teacher, could be novice pupil. Question and explore, they need time. They need time to immerse and really think about the questions, research. They need to be testing themselves, learning debating skills, introducing, capturing, comparing and contrasting and correcting, their learning that they're doing the whole time. That's a pupil, but also you as a teacher, as your professional development. It's your responsibility Really question yourself, get in there, pull it to pieces, ask people for feedback, really question and explore, because some of it will be completely new learning for all of us. And then as you move more confident and you become more expert in the area of CPD, you would be more challenging, you can motivate the debate, you can start the debate, you ask the provoking questions, you encourage the quick critical thinking and testing, and you introduce your own research. So you're thinking about something that may be in CPD that we've touched on in Marge, for example, in Blue Block, we were really interested by Marge, and we're continuing to research into motivation this coming year because we were interested in that. It had a little spark to it, it ignited us. So we're going to be doing that. So just have a think about what you like, what could you take further, and how to declare and share. So as a novice, again, novice teacher, or a pupil, you need to focus on how you communicate. So how do you articulate yourself? How do you educate others? How do you check for understanding? How do you capture, compare, correct? And importantly, how do you celebrate? So how do you get your work that you've done out there? How do you engage people, etc.? And then as you become more expert, you do that. You don't stop communicating and educating, but you can also make sure that you put in time to check for your understanding. So what we're going to do now is we're going to split. So Rosalind, before we split, do you want to jump in, say anything?
I just want to say well done. That was lovely, really clearly explained, and has really underpinned our ethos and why we're doing what we're doing.
Perfect. So Rosalind, you set up another meeting for Mount Wise now, haven't you?
I have.
So I'm just thinking now, to make it easier, I'm going to be a bit cheeky for Mayflower. If Mayflower staff just stay on, I can continue to share. And Mount Wise, if you click on Rosalind's link,
I will be there.
I'll see you in a minute. So Mayflower, don't go anywhere.
And Mount Wise, if you leave this meeting and literally just join the meeting that has my name under it, okay? And we'll go through the CPD timetable for the year.
See you later, Rosalind. Okay, so I need to share my screen again. I think it's still sharing. Can you see my screen, Ryan? Yeah? No? No? Can you see it now, anyone? I don't think so. Oh, you can? Yeah. Sorry, Ryan, I couldn't see anybody.
That's all right. Yeah, we can see it. We
Brilliant.
can see it.
So I'm really sorry, I can't actually see anyone. I can only see my screen. So you might have to shout at me if you need something. Right, so these are, hello Mayflower, by the way. These are the feedback basically from the Yammer polls that you did last time through CPD. So these are the areas that Mayflower staff feel quite confident in their teaching. Just let you have a quick look at that. Of course, there are a couple. Well, there are a few on here that even though we say we feel confident on them, they're not going to go away, because we constantly need to be looking at all of these areas, especially giving feedback and questioning. So these are the areas from the poll that we felt at Mayflower that we needed to have a little bit more time going on it. So metacognition means being able to encourage the children to articulate. So as they're going through a maths problem, they are able to explain how they're solving their maths problem and what their next steps might be, and how they can reflect on their learning. So staff at Mayflower felt that we needed to work on that a little bit more. Planning and sequencing of learning. Staff felt that they would like to have more time given over to the planning and sequencing. Attending to learning, which goes back really to our 4 C's, talking about motivation and attending again. This was interesting, creating a climate of high challenge and high trust. So that is based on Mary Myatt and her work. It's pitching to the top. So it's making sure that we personalise our learning, that we're not differentiating into 3, bottom, middle, top. We are personalising and we are pitching to the top. We have high expectations for every single child at our school. Learner motivation, obviously we touched on that a little bit last year, but that is quite a big thing that's out there at the moment, CPD wise. Pupil emotional well-being, well, that always should come first, basically, and we need some more training on that. And I've spoken to Nathan, and we will be getting some amazing training coming up soon. And this was a really big result, that teachers wanted a lot more time for the subject-specific CPD. Which is fair enough, isn't it? Because as I said, we're teaching everything, and so to be able to teach it would be good to hear from subject leaders. So now I just want you to think and try and keep in mind these colours. So we're going to split our professional development into 4 strands. So green always reflects our pedagogy, our Mayflower pedagogy. So how do we teach and learn at Mayflower? Subject leadership will always be shown in grey. Curriculum will always be shown in this pinky colour. And a new thread this year is career development, which will be shown in a blue colour, because as Helen was saying earlier, I think it was Helen, or maybe it was Sarah's talk, when they were talking about their AIPs, they were saying about how we're going to look at every single person from ECTs, which are the new NQTs, through to senior established teachers. So everybody's entitled to career development path, like a flight pathway. So when we look at pedagogy, just breaking this down, this means that we're looking at our evidence-informed research. So we're taking the research and we're looking how it fits with us. Then we're using our own school pedagogy, because we're quite unique in how we do our teaching, learning and assessment, and it's really important that we can understand that. We're going to have time in our phases to break down and look at how we do teaching, learning and assessment in classes and teams, and then of course your own research. So think about the pyramid, how we're trying to climb up the pyramid. We need to be looking at our own research now. And subject leadership. So this is relevant to actually majority of us here, because most of us will be doing some training of others at some point this academic year. So we're going to do that because we all need to increase our subject knowledge. It needs to be bang up to date subject knowledge for every subject. That then helps us to shape our curriculum. It then helps us as leaders to quality assure and monitor and training of others. So we're going to use this time, these grey areas that you'll see on the timetable in a moment will always be subject leadership sessions. Then we're going to go on to the curriculum. So the curriculum is like kind of an overview now. So this would be very much the LAC curriculum as well as our own Mayflower one. So talking about trivium, talking about how everything that we do goes from the modelling to the question and exploring to the declare and sharing. How we're tying this in with project-based learning, and how we're encouraging and empowering our pupils to actually project manage their own learning. We're going to do this by taking advice from external experts, and we're really going to try and put ourselves out there. Let's widen that net. Let's get networking and influencing and put Plymouth on the map. Let's get ahead of our postcode, as Dave says. And this is the new strand, so career development. So you may hear at the moment there are some initial changes to the initial teacher training, the ITT. So it's very much, I keep reading things about it, how it may be moving away from traditional establishments such as universities and moving more into things like Teach First, etc. So that's something to keep our eye on at the moment, because that will change everything. It has a massive knock-on effect for us as the profession. Then this is a new change. So from September, anybody that's moving into teaching in their first year is no longer called an NQT. They're called an ECT, so an early career teacher. And that is covered by a framework called the Early Career Framework. So for example, I know she won't mind, but Meg in year 5 is our ECT at Mayflower. And it's different, it's amazing, because it's a 2-year training package that's very much bespoke to somebody that's new coming into teaching. And she gets a little bit more time. So she gets PPA, but then she gets more time to do the ECT, the ECF, sorry, but it's very structured framework that Meg has to follow. And there were 3 bands that we could do. We could go with a government funded programme where everything is done and the experts, you know, the big social media experts, for example, Mary Myatt, etc., and the researchers lead the sessions. We could do that, or we could do the middle version where you can sign up for some of those, but you tweak it and make it your own. Or you could do the 3rd version where you say no thank you to the government and you design your whole package. And that was quite exciting to us. But for this, because it's new to us too, we thought we would be wise to stick with the other schools from what the LAT are doing, and we're going with the government framework so we can see the expectations. So Meg's got a really, really good package ahead of her for that. So that's very exciting. Then in between there, we're also offering members of staff this year to go on recently qualified teachers courses. And that is run by the organisation called SWIFT, which is something like the Southwest Federation of Teachers or Teaching Federation, something like that, SWIFT. And they're running courses. So we are entitled to use those courses. And the first one that I've enrolled people in is their recently qualified teachers. So that's looking especially for teachers that were NQTs throughout lockdown, and then giving them a little bit more time and research to look through stuff that they may have missed. And then this is a new change, National Professional Qualifications. The NPQs have had a shift, and there are new branches of NPQs that have come out there which focus a lot more on, one for example, leading teams, one for leading professional development, one for leading behaviour and welfare. And so they're really good. We did send out some information about those. If anybody's interested in them for next year, you just have a word with us and we can always have a think about it and see if it suits. And then also the NPQML, so the National Professional Qualification for Middle Leaders, has now finished, that's gone. But those 3 new NPQs replaced that. The NPQ SL is still there at the moment. It's a 2-year course, and if you do it here as well, it also encompasses a foundation business degree. So it's a lot of work, and it's a minimum of 2 years. Also, it's just really important to note that if you are offered to, or you're interested in picking up any of these NPQs, the official NPQs, then you are expected to stay at the LAT for at least another year, because obviously they funded the places. So you just have to bear all that in mind. It would be awful if you did it and then left and got a bill. So you just have to bear that in mind. It is a massive commitment. And then, of course, we've got the LAT-wide external training courses. For example, we've got 2 members of staff now that are going on to preparing for middle leadership course, and that's run by Pizza. So there's lots of different courses out there. They are coming up all the time. I'm getting updates constantly from them. I've signed up to all the newsletters because I feel personally it's very important to enable and empower staff as much as we possibly can. So I will let you know if anything comes up. But if you hear of anything, then please come and just have a word with me and we'll have a chat. So then that's all fine, but now we need to think about how we're going to tie everything that I've just spoken about all together. And I just put this nice quote here from Maya because she's really on at the moment about talking about how we really need to do fewer things but in greater depth. And so it's really important that we take a step back and we look at how we're using our time, space, resources and expertise to be able to move from dependent through to interdependent. And so here is our professional development cycle. And the reason that we've chosen to put this slide in is because we want to move away from the mindset that CPD is on a Wednesday afternoon and you have to sit there for an hour and a half and that's what you do for your CPD. Well, it's not. So professional development is never ending, and there's only so much that we can do from school because it's very personal. It's a personal journey as well. But basically, CPD is talked about in leadership meetings, so MALT and the WALT. And then that's brought into whatever we talk about is discussed at phase meetings, which I've put operational there, and I'll tell you why in a moment. Then that feeds into weekly CPD, which is the Wednesday sessions. Now, the reason that phase meetings says operational is because we did this very well last year, actually. We've moved away from doing it where, sorry, Jane just stuck her head in. We're doing it where we're moving away from having our Wednesday meeting and then somebody saying, oh, can I just remind everybody that next week is blah, 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 blah. So we've moved away. So Wednesdays are a protected time. It's your professional development time. It's very carefully planned. It's not a time for anything operational, any timetabling issues, anything like that is what is discussed in your phase meetings. Then this leads through to weekly PPA. So your PPA session is still part of your professional development, very much so, because everything you're learning, you should then be applying to your teaching, learning and assessment, which is done in your PPA. Then it's the team daily reflection. So whether that be at the end of the day or whenever fits for your phase and your team, it's really important, as Dave has said previously, whether you go through misconceptions of that day ready for the next day, or whether you're looking at how to tweak the planning ready for your PPA sessions, whatever it is, it's really important. And it's a cycle. Again, it never ends. Everything blends into each other. But we just felt it was really important to show this, to move away from thinking that the CPD offer at Mayflower is on a Wednesday. It's not, it's much bigger than that. And so here we are. Now I have put this into the main PowerPoint that Dave has sent through to everybody so that everybody can see. And what I will do is I will email it when this session is finished, and I will print paper copies for you as well. But you can see that the year has been very carefully mapped out. Now, I must say, although it's mapped out, it has to be subject to change because things like to pop up and we have to be adaptable. So remembering that anything green is pedagogy, grey is subject and specific, pink is your curriculum. Now the blue isn't on this, but down the left hand side you can see that that is blue because your personal development is continuously threaded through. But these are your Wednesday sessions. So the little icon with the person pointing at the board is anything where you're going to be immersed in new knowledge. It's the modelled session. Then you've got the face with the cogs working, the cogs turning. That's opportunities to question and explore. And in the speech bubbles, you'll see are opportunities to declare and share, which there are more of this year. So when we look at autumn 1, you can see very much that it's pretty much pedagogy and a little bit of subject trivium. So for example, there is one there, Kelly, about trivium in DT. So don't worry, because that will probably be blended with an overrunning of pedagogy. And then in justification of opinion, that would lead through to myself and Katie and Ellie as well. Then Malt will take on waves of engagement and home learning. Then the ones in red, sorry, I had to quick look then. The ones in red are the LAT CPD. So that's when we come together with all the schools from our family of schools. So I don't know what their focus will be. Then we're going to do some reactive research, and we're looking at the walkthroughs, and we're talking about oracy and public speaking. And then week 7, what we're going to do, we're going to come together and we're going to share our learning, what we've learnt in autumn 1. So we're doing like mini shares almost throughout each half term, leading up to a big share, the grand share in summer 6. So autumn 1 basically is all pedagogy based. Moving into autumn 2, we've still got pedagogy because remember it's a spiral, but now we're starting to put in more subjects. So the first session is pedagogy, and then I'm going to do phonics training for everybody. And in maths in phase, sorry, we put that we are going to do a maths moderation during that phase meeting. Then the week after, we're going to talk about the teaching of reading, how we do that, and that will be shared by myself and Sarah Extons, and we're going to be linking that through to the walkthroughs because the walkthroughs has examples of how to do teaching for reading. Then it's another LAT. Then we're going to do MEP Maths. So Siobhan is going to lead that session, and she's going to show us what a MEP Maths session should look like. So be prepared, because at some point, I'm just speaking for Siobhan, but I would imagine she'll want some video clips, etc. of maths. Then we've got curriculum, linking to walkthroughs, talking about scaffolding. And then we're going to share all our learning about what we've learned so far about DT and justification of opinion, because that will be the end of autumn term. And then we move on to spring, similar, talking about trivium in history. Then Nathan's got a session on pupil mental health. We've got ICT there, so Ross, that may be you or that might be an external provider, not decided yet. Then there's science, so Dan will lead the science one because Dan is now science lead, if you didn't know, because lovely Carly-Ann is going on maternity leave, so she's handed over science. Then we've got another LAT CPD. Then we're going to touch on learning scientists, refresh about the 6 strategies. And then we're going to do a declare and share about what we've learned in history. Then we're moving on now into spring 4. We're talking about core pedagogy again there. So that will probably be Malt led. Then Helen, Taylor, you've got a session for RE. Then it's LAT CPD. Then Ryan, we've put you in for music because we thought it would be really good for us all to have some subject knowledge in music. Then core pedagogy, and then we're going to declare and share. So it says declare and share art, but it will be declare and share everything that we've learned so far in spring. Then moving on to summer, we're going to look at geography, leadership development, AIPs, then LAT CPD, and then we're going to give time to plan ahead because it's really important that we give this time. Now, summer 6, at the moment, summer 6 looks a little empty because that's the time where if we need to put any extra sessions in, we will. So I know for a fact that there's going to be another wellbeing session from Nathan in that term. But we've done it on purpose so that we give people time to plan ahead, to really think, to be reflective, and then to prepare. So you can see at the very end, again, you've got the last 2 weeks where it's declare and sharing. Now we're going to build on that, so don't be scared. Instead of doing it in phase, the plans are at the moment is that everybody's going to do their own. So you're going to do your own research throughout the whole of this coming year. You can choose which areas. It has to be some of these, obviously, trivium in whatever you want it to be in. And then you're going to choose a platform to present it. So details haven't been finalised yet because we've still got time to work on things like that. But we're looking at things like you might want to write a diary, You might want to do a blog. You might want to share your tweets. You might want to do a video. You might want to do a PowerPoint. It will be however you want to do it. So it's personalized to your learning, because at the end of the day, you're accountable for your own professional development. We can guide, but it sounds a bit cheesy, but it's your journey. And so that is what we're going to do. So I know it looks like whoa when you look at it, but you can see it's very much spiral. It's very much trivium based. It's taken in what staff at Mayflower wanted, and we've tried to fit that in as much as we possibly can. And then of course we've got the core LAT CPD running throughout. That is Mount Wiser's, which is similar-ish. So we've also mapped out some pre-reading that we will be giving you in advance. So we're still going to be using the yellow walkthroughs, but we're also moving on to book 2 of the walkthroughs. I know at the moment, if you want to buy your own, I think this is also on offer, especially via Kindle at the moment. I think otherwise it's about $6.99 or something like that to buy. And what I will try and do, if you don't get it, we will have to be a little naughty and work out ways to share it so that everybody has it in advance where you can have a look. So the first one that you'll get next week to be reading through will be about trivium in practice, so that everything is related and you start to make sense of it. So like I say, this will all be printed for you, so you know what, because we only went up to spring 3 because we felt that was enough. We didn't want to overload people, and we were also scared that some people would go ahead and read everything, and we don't want to overload anybody with CPD research. So we're just taking it small steps for this, but we really hope that will help. We've also put in some podcasts, which will be your knowledge, different reading here, like from Doug Limov, and some websites. So we're trying to find different ways instead of just constantly giving books to read. And please don't forget that you do actually have the video, YouTube video collection that we created last year for everybody to go through and have a look too. So you're probably thinking, if you've got a subject, how on earth am I going to do that? What do they want me to talk about? So Rosalind and I have put this together. So it's the same for Mount Wise. It's a scaffold. So you can take this. Of course, you can make it your own. You don't have to use these exact slides. So this would be your subject leader. We were thinking about how, when you do your session, it would be nice to start off with some kind of activity to introduce people. Now, we're not talking about any icebreaker type activities or anything that makes people feel uncomfortable, but we're talking about things like you could do a quiz, you can analyze documents, write down your personal strengths and weaknesses, look at data trends, or quickly summarize short documents. So we're not looking at doing any activities that puts people on the spot, that makes them feel uncomfortable. Then we're talking about how you can support people to talk about how they model and immerse themselves in their subject. So we're breaking that down into the whole part whole, zooming out, zooming in, zooming out, talking about the progression of skills across the subject and progression of knowledge. What are the focuses in your session? So aims and objectives. What will staff know by the end of the session? Misconceptions, anything that's been brought up, how are you going to address those? And then, have you got any examples of good practice that you can share? And your expectations, what are you expecting to see? What are you expecting staff to do for your subject? Then a little bit of scaffolding to help you think about how you're going to question and explore. So looking at the research, making sure that the research is credible for a start. So I would go down an EEF route or TDT route, something like that. Finding the key points and justifying why. Thinking about the 3 triad roles, because always coming back to Mayflower pedagogy, how does the research fit with the triad and your subject? And how are you going to use it to inform your practice? And then to declare and share. So how will support staff get to this step? So if you work with me, because we're going to continue with our bespoke TA package, so you'll need to work with me to make sure that I'm aware of what you want the TAs to be doing. How are you going to support staff in being confident enough to network? So what are you going to do? How are you going to help them? If they've never been on Twitter before, are you going to show them how to go on Twitter? Are you going to give them the links? Let's help each other. And is there a date that anything is expected to be achieved? How do I manage that one? So there's a lot there to do. Like I say, the timetable will go on the PowerPoint that Dave's created, and you'll get paper copies of all of that so that you can know. But hopefully, I'm hoping that people are happy because you have got access to subject knowledge. It's developing your leadership skills by asking you to lead sessions. How do you feel? Unmute yourself and let me know what your feelings are, please. Always great when it's a silence.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm excited to go and purchase my yellow and blue walkthrough books. And I've learnt lots that I didn't know before.
I think you'll find them really useful. They're really good.
Yeah, we've been talking a bit around the table about all the different pedagogy bits and bobs, so got lots to learn, but I'm looking forward to seeing it all in practice as well.
It will make sense as well when you actually see it in action. It all comes together. Ryan, how do you feel about doing some music subject for us?
I can't wait. You're keeping me waiting till spring 4.
Oh, I know. The problem is that it's really hard to fit everybody in.
Do you know what's really nice is we talked about at the end of the last school year, we talked about doing that across the lab as well. So I'm going to get a bit of practice in beforehand, so that's great. So
Good idea.
yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, and hopefully, I think, thinking about pyramid of influence and whatnot, moving on from that, I can then take that hopefully and sort of start to take that around the city and maybe further. So yeah, really works. Yeah, it's cool.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
It will, yeah.
Be
Might
good.
even get paid for it. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know.
I'm really excited, and thanks for letting me do it.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Sarah, there isn't any, Sarah Murphy, there aren't any PE slots because we're getting PE training, we've had it and we're getting it today as well. And I know that is continuous, so there will be extra ones. There just isn't a specific slot on the timetable. But how does everybody else feel? Does that sit well? I know it's a lot to take in. When you see it in paper, it will probably make a lot more sense.
Hi. It was very nice having the overview.
Go on, Carly, you go. Can you say that again?
It was very nice having the overview and seeing the whole year spread out and exactly what we're doing when.
Yeah, I think so. It's really hard because there's so much that we want to fit in and actually not enough weeks in our year. So it was quite hard to put the timetable together, but hopefully it will work well. And I agree, it's nice to have the whole year, isn't it, in front of us.
Hi, Eve.
Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for that. So much information, really in great detail. And like you say, the accompanying slides really back that up as well. So thank you for that hard work. And just off the back of Sarah Murphy's comment or question, we have always got the opportunity as well to use phase meetings for any subject specific CPD. So you've already considered and included that, but within the cycle. But actually, if there's anybody that needs any more, please remember, we're so good with the remote now. Let's get a video up with you modelling, with you talking over it, and phase leaders will be more than happy to take that through their phase meetings. So there is still that opportunity there. So yeah, just to add that bit on. So
sorry, Sarah Murphy, I couldn't see any chat. I could only see my PowerPoint. Sorry.
Oh, I don't think it was chat. It was just off the comment that you made just a minute ago. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought I'd missed something in the chat then. I was like, I can't see anything.
Oh, that's great, Eve. Thank you. And I think you've made it just about to lunchtime. So Penny's just got a quick brief comment.
Hi, obviously we've run over a little bit today, so there's not time for my PLB session. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write everybody an email and make a quick video that I will send out to everybody. And if anybody's got any queries about PLB, come and see me, but I'll put it all in an email and get that sent out to you by the end of today. Okay? All right, thank you.
Perfect.
Right, shall we go?
Let's go. Thanks ever so much, Eve.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.